Rev up your engines!
Well, here we go with lack of Ram quality. Ram is recalling over 260,000 Ram trucks because the airbags might create shrapnel. They might just go off by themselves. They might not even do it when you run into something. They might just spontaneously explode because they built the things wrong and they think they have moisture in them and it can just make the explosive mixture inside the airbags explode. Now, these are side curtain airbags. Can you imagine you're going down a road, they blow off and throw shrapnel on the side of your head? Yes, not exactly the thing you want for a nice driving experience. They say they can rupture without warning, even without the airbags deploying. So it's like a ticking time bomb. Now, if you own a Ram pickup from 2015 to 2020, I'd advise getting your VIN number, going to the National Highway Traffic Safety Association.org website, put in your VIN number and see if it's recalled. And like I said, this includes an awful lot of Ram pickups. It includes 212,000 in the U.S., 42,000 in Canada, 3,800 in Mexico, and 4,500 in the rest of the world. Be wary. You want to get that fixed. They got to replace the airbags free. You don't want them blowing up whenever they feel like it, throwing shrapnel in your face like you're in a bombing run over Europe in World War II with the Germans shooting flak at you. Quality, obviously, just still isn't there. That includes up to 2020, things that are a year old. So check, make sure you don't want those things blowing up and hitting you or your family while you're driving down the road in a Ram. Well, here we go with electric cars and fires. A Tesla Model S, their top of the line, recently burned down a couple's home. Yogi and Carolyn Vindham were sleeping and their Model S started on fire. On the positive side, Yogi was sleeping and the Tesla app beamed up to his iPhone that there was a problem. But he was sleeping, so of course, he didn't get the notification. Moments later, their garage started on fire. And they said, luckily, we sleep downstairs. Because if they'd slept upstairs, the garage started on fire going up, they might have been killed. He was charging the battery at night. That's what they tell you. Well, you can drive it a day and recharge it overnight. Maybe not such a smart idea. Or at least park it outside with a long extension cord so it doesn't burn your house down. And of course, like I've said many times, the lithium-ion batteries that they use are really hard to put out. The lithium reacts explosively with air as it gets exposed and there's a fire. It can go a long time. Hundreds of thousands of gallons of water to put out. It's so bad that if you remember when I talked about a station that collected electricity as a storage bay in Australia, it burnt down amongst a whole bunch of other ones, and the Australians said, we're just going to let it burn out because it was out in the middle of nowhere, I guess in the outback or something, and they knew if they kept pouring water and water, it still wouldn't put it out, so they just let it burn itself up. Plus, they're out in the outback. How much water is there out there, you know? So, I mean, really. Think about it. They tell you to charge it at night when you're sleeping, but then if you are sleeping, unless you have all your notifications on your phone, and then every 5 seconds something's going to buzz and wake you up and you got to see what it is, you shouldn't even be charging it, especially if it's inside your garage. I know most people I see, they got the charger inside the garage. They don't want anybody stealing it if it's outside the garage, so they got it inside the garage. In this case, it burnt the guy's house down. Could have killed them too. So electric cars, oh, the future friendly. Scotty says, we're all dreaming. Well, I'm not dreaming. Maybe a bunch of other people are, but I'm certainly not dreaming. Instead of dreaming, like this guy was, it could have turned into a nightmare. It was a nightmare enough that his house burnt down, but he could have been killed too. So, Project Nerdvana says, for cars outside the USA, what do you think, Suzuki? Nothing wrong with them. I was in a British Virgin Islands. Everybody drove those Suzuki Samurais. They don't make them anymore, but in Australia, I got friends that drive Suzukis. They like them. So, you know, if you get parts for them, people know how to fix them. They're small cars that get good gas mileage. Here in the United States, people still don't really give a crap about gas mileage all that much. But if you're paying 3 to 4 times what we pay here, you're going to care. So they want cars that get really good gas mileage. Suzuki failed miserably in the United States because Americans want fast cars that zip around, and they were small cars that didn't zip around. We all drive, 96% Americans, automatic transmissions. They're complete dogs with automatic transmissions. The rest of the world, people don't mind standard transmissions. They're a lot zippier. So yeah, the rest of the world, they can be okay. Mark Fagan says, what do you think of Volkswagen? Well, a Volkswagen, they make lots of cars. They have. I could go through days of histories and analysis how old Adolf came up with the idea of the Volkswagen, took millions of Deutschmarks from the Germans and never made a single one, spent it to make bombs and tanks and stuff instead, up into modern day where they're extremely high-tech company that owns Porsche, Audi, they own all kinds of companies, and they're getting into electric cars now. But in the United States, I would not buy a Volkswagen. Their parts are expensive. They're very hard cars to figure out. If you're a private individual, you go to the dealer, they always screw over their clientele. They charge them too much money to fix them, and the parts are super expensive. Now in Europe, they're very popular. People know how to fix them. The parts are cheap. cheaper, it's another ball game. But in the United States, they've already found out they're having a real big problem. In Germany, I believe something like 67% of the electric cars sold this year were Volkswagen electric cars. Not so in the United States. Hardly anybody's buying them. They have a bad taste of the bad Volkswagen dealers. Overpriced repairs, expensive costs. So they got to get rid of that bad image. That's going to take a while to do. But their regular gasoline cars, I'm not a fan because they're too high-tech and they break down too much. They cost too much money. And then when you want to sell them, they have no resale value. So not a fan of American Volkswagens. Time Traveler says, the clutch on my Toyota Avenza sometimes slips. When should I change it? Change it now. That's the cheapest way to replace it. Now you can get a clutch kit for $100 that has all the parts and it should work perfectly fine. If you wait until the metal rivets on the clutch discs start wearing into the flywheel, then you're going to have to buy a flywheel. Price what a flywheel costs, one of those things. They cost a lot of money. Do it sooner than later so you don't have to buy a flywheel. Flywheels are expensive. I've installed many clutches, and on my own cars, I've never, ever had to buy a flywheel. And they're so expensive. When they start to slip, I replace them. It only makes logical sense if you're going to keep the car. James Self said, Scotty, any update on Ford modules being installed on new vehicles that are sitting? Well, I guess they still have a real problem because I just saw a picture of hundreds and hundreds of Ford Broncos sitting in Michigan, just sitting. And Ford said, well, they're making sure the quality control is this la, 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 blah, blah. Who knows what the truth is? They're not going to tell us the truth. So I just know there's hundreds of them sitting and people are waiting for these Broncos. So I think they probably still have a real chip problem. They just want to talk about it, you know. They want to act like, oh, no, that's all under control. Be like the captain while the ship's sinking. Don't worry. They're supposed to list like that. It's like a porpoise coming out of the water. Who knows? But I don't think they fixed it. D&E Diesel says, what do you think of a 2008 Volvo XC90 with a straight six engine? They can be very good engines if taken care of. They're pretty solid engines. As far as I know, most of them use an ACE and a Toyota transmission. Now, I've seen some that had the dual clutch one that the Germans make in Austria, and those are good transmissions too. They're very complex. When they break, they cost a fortune to fix. But let's say you're buying a used one, road test it. Make sure it shifts good. Make sure it doesn't overheat. Make sure the AC works. And then before you buy it, make sure a good mechanic checks it out, because there's a lot of hidden crap that can be in one of those things you can't hide from one of these fancy scan tools. Ziggy Stardust says, Scotty, I'm interested in buying a 79 Z28 Camaro. What are your thoughts on that car? Well, they go for an awful lot of money because they're kind of collector's items, right? Therefore, you're going to pay a lot for a good one, but they do keep their value because people are nuts about it. My grandson bought one. I wouldn't have given $100 for the car. It was horrible. His trunk was rotted away and all this stuff. He paid like $2,500. I mean, you can make money. You can do whatever you want. But say you want the car and you want to drive it every day. Check the frame and the body for rust. If the frame's rusting, don't buy it. It's useless if the frame is rotted through. They had virtually no rusting-proof stuff on those in 79. And they rust like mad. If it's in Detroit or Chicago, kiss it goodbye. Check it. But it would probably be all rotten unless it was stored inside in the winter and never saw the salty roads. But if it comes from Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, who knows? It might have a good solid body. What you want is a good solid body, stuff not rotted. The rest you can fix easily. But if the body's rotten, all torn apart, don't buy it. It's a waste of money then. John Buick says, to shift or not to shift? That is the question. Scotty, I got a 2013 Lincoln. The transmission can be switched to manual shifting in S mode. I'm not sure if it's sport or standard. Stands for sport, really. I leave it in sport all the time where it causes problems. I like the S mode, and I don't shift it manually, but I don't want to cause any damage. No, that's perfectly fine. It just will shift at a little bit higher RPM so you get more acceleration. That's what it's done for sport mode. You know, you get a little bit worse gas mileage. Of course, you know, once you get to a certain speed, it doesn't matter what mode it's in, it's going to be spinning at the same speed. That's just to go from 0 to 80 faster, whatever speed you're going to. Once you reach that speed, it makes absolutely no difference at all. So if you like the way it goes, you'll get a little bit lower gas mileage in the car, but it's not going to hurt anything. And if you find, let's say it really ages, you got 100,000 miles now, and say another 50,000 miles, it's kind of odd in one mode versus the other, then use the mode that it works best in and just leave it at that mode. Then don't switch it from mode to another, because as they age and things break, sometimes either the S mode or the normal mode will work better. Then stick to that mode if it's wearing out, to see how much mileage you can get to make it last as long as possible. Howard Lucan says, I want to buy an M1 Abrams tank to defend myself from the government. Any idea what the resale value is and if the drivetrain is reliable? All right, you can't buy one. What they do is they recycle them all, and they spend a lot of money. They go through them, take them all apart, sandblast them, upgrade them, and all this stuff, but you can't buy one. They don't get rid of them. They just keep rebuilding them. They're so solid built, you know? I mean, they are. They just keep rebuilding them. And it's not like World War II where we're knocking the Nazi tanks out, they're knocking our tanks out, and they got bullet holes in them. They got to fix them, put them together. Nobody's really knocking them out anymore, so they just wear out, and then they take them in and they rebuild them. So you couldn't buy one, even if you wanted to. And I don't think a government would sell you a tank so you could defend yourself against them anyways. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.